Be good. Be very good.
A new city, a fresh start. For Ryan, Denver was supposed to be opportunity, until one chance encounter changed everything. What began as friendship turned into something darker, where charm blurred into control, and connection became captivity. Based on true events, a captive audience pulls you inside a story of deception, resilience, and the fight to break free. Raw, gripping, unforgettable. Grab your copy on Amazon today.
Woo, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. I'm a wuss. I'm scared already. I mean, thrillers and horror and all of that just gets me to the core, and I become this wimp, and it's over. I'm dreaming about somebody touching my feet at night. My name is Yaya Diamond. I am the host of Dream Chasers Radio. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. It is a pleasure to have our next guest on the show. He is the author of A Captive Audience. His name is Ryan H. Stone, and he's joining with us right here on the audio today. And thank you so much for joining with us.
Thanks for having me, Yaya.
Oh, anytime. So, okay, Ryan. All right. Okay. So you wrote this book. You did this thing. I mean, why? That's my first question. It's like always my first. What happened to make you want to put this in a book form?
Sure. So that's a great question. I feel like, I've always been a reader. I've liked reading since I was a kid, maybe a little nostalgic, but for the 80s and 90s babies, we didn't really have as much connectedness. And so I grew up just consuming literature, and I still like to read. I never quite thought that I would make the leap from, reader to writer. But sometimes I think life throws you some curveballs, and I think for me, I had a story that I wanted to tell, and the best way to do that was just to grab a pen and paper and write a book.
Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely. So I wanted to ask you, like, how does this book, the psychological aspect of it, the subtle psychological abuse, how does that escalate over time and then actually become normalized?
Sure. So I think it's a little bit of a complex topic, but I'll try to kind of do my best to kind of clarify it. As a disclaimer, I'm not a psychologist. This is more of a lived experience. But as doing research for the book took a lot of time, so I've definitely kind of delved through all the research papers and the articles and all of the videos, and there's so much out there that's great information. I think that there is a lot of emphasis currently on what I would call pop psychology, especially with terms like narcissism, borderline, kind of all these labels that get thrown out there. And I think that it's really important to, not only understand what they mean clinically, but then also to be able to impose that onto real life. So, when someone says narcissist, my ex is a narcissist, or, anything along those lines, what does that actually mean? What does that feel like? A psychologist might be able to define for you what narcissistic personality disorder means. But what does that experience actually feel like as a person?
Right.
And so I think that's kind of the approach that, I try to take with my work.
That is good, because people need to know the real behind the situation. I think that we get caught up in the movies, we get caught up in what we think is real, but it's really not. It doesn't really happen in real life. You know what I mean? That's really good. That's really good. Wow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like, the movies are great. I think my book is a little bit sensationalized. So, it's definitely, I I would say, juicy and a little dark at times. But from a psychological standpoint, there's all these different terms, and for me personally, I can read the definition, but reading and knowing a definition doesn't always translate to an emotion, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
it does. It does. It does.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to kind of tell my story in a way that maybe triggered an emotion in somebody where they could understand, okay, I know what abuse means, but how does it relate to me, to my experience? Does any of it resonate with me?
Gotcha. Wow. Wow. So PTSD, right? What does complex PTSD actually feel like then from the inside? I mean, are you going out of sorts? Is it an unraveling feeling? I mean, what does it feel like?
Sure. So I would first say to kind of to distinguish. So there's what people know PTSD is post traumatic stress disorder, and that's historically kind of what we associate with combat veterans or people who were in the armed forces who come back from Afghanistan or Iraq. The term was first kind of coined after World War II, when the soldiers would come back from the battlefield and they would have shell shock. And basically, that kind of was the basic framework for what they later termed PTSD. And so, what we know about it is that PTSD is not just limited to people who were in combat. It can basically stem from any traumatic situation where the person feels overwhelmed and maybe unable to escape. So it's not just in veterans, it's definitely present in the broader population. For example, I'm an example. I have never gone to battle in that sense for my country, but I have, served the public in my own way as a paramedic. And so that maybe can kind of correlate to what we would define as like post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, without complicating it too much, there's a newer term that's called complex PTSD, which is similar to PTSD, but with some extra features. And so the way you get the complex version of PTSD is there's not just one traumatic event. It's not like, I'm a soldier and I see my platoon hit by a grenade, and that is obviously very traumatizing. But for complex PTSD, the source of the trauma is ongoing. It's not a one-off event, if you will.
Right. Wow. That is wow. That is complex. It definitely is. But it can be identified. And that's what you're doing in your book. You're identifying it. Am I wrong, or am I on the right track?
No, you're absolutely right. So it can definitely be identified. I know you asked. Um, for the record, I'm very bad at prefacing. I preface a lot before I actually like get. So when I tell stories to people, they're like, "Okay, but is this a story or is this your lead up to the story?" So that's kind of how I am always when I talk. So that was kind of like the background. I know you asked initially, what does it feel like?
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like, it can manifest differently for different people, but for me, I experience it as this fight or flight response, kind of like a nervous system ramping up. And basically what happens is something will trigger. We hear the word trigger quite a bit in, day to day. So for someone with like diagnosed PTSD, a trigger is any kind of event or memory. It could be a sound, a scent, a texture that
Mm.
reminds your body of the trauma. For example, triggers can be anything. One of my triggers is loud voices, like being yelled at or anything like that. And so what happens for me is when I feel a trigger, my body goes into that fight or flight response, which is basically it amps up, it gets the adrenaline going, and then my body is basically preparing. Do I run? Do I flee this dangerous situation, or do I stand my ground and get ready to fight? And it kind of goes back to like animals in nature. Like if Yaya is in the forest and she comes across a mountain lion, your body is going to
Ooh.
do the same exact thing that mine is doing. You're going to stop, and your body in a split second is going to think, okay, this is a mountain lion. This thing can eat me. Am I going to run? And you're all amped up. You're ready to run. You're ready to bolt, like Usain Bolt, Or are you going to stand your ground, and are you going to fight that mountain lion to the death? And so if you can imagine what your body feels like in that moment where it's making a split second, decision to run or to stand your ground, you're going to think you're tensing up, you're breathing faster, your pupils are dilating, your lungs are expanding, your body's bracing kind of for this impact that could mean life or death. And so that feeling in that moment is kind of what I would say it feels like to have PTSD once you're triggered. So the difference is it doesn't take the mountain lion being present. The danger doesn't have to be around anymore. For me, my trauma was a long time ago, but sometimes a smell or a sound of yelling for me can trigger that same fear as if that mountain lion, that traumatic event was happening right now.
What? First of all, um, your girl right here will not be putting herself in the path of a mountain lion. Cause yeah, but if I were ever in that situation, I would already have my gun out.
Yeah, you can't outrun those things. I will tell
No,
you.
you cannot. So it's might just bring the gun out, get the cut on bit, shoot and cut. That's it. That's all you can do. I'm telling you, I would be freaked out. I mean, just put it this way, and not to go, I understand where you're coming from because, everybody, when you explain something like that, people have to go back into their registry of memories to actually go and think about what would be a similar comparison to what you're saying. Um, and one day I was out in the garden in Miami before we moved to the West Coast of Florida, and I was digging to plant my, my seeds and stuff like that for my garden. And this freaking rat comes out of the ground.
Oh my God.
And then a snake comes up after it. Now I got a hoe.
No,
I
no.
got a hoe. You know what happened with the snake and the rat. You know what happened, right?
Yes.
They all got cut to pieces while I screamed. My husband runs over to me like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Ah, ah!" The rat is in pieces, the snake is in little pieces, and they're all squirming everywhere. And I'm just continually chopping them into pieces. Like I can't stop. So I know how you
Yeah,
feel. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. It's that feeling. My gosh. Wow. I never understood it until now.
yeah. So it's a really great example because
Wow.
I mean, that's terrifying because
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
but like, yeah, imagine that feeling, but being stuck in it,
Oh no.
and you think you get it back under control, you have a good day, and then all of a sudden, the rat's coming back out of the ground. You know,
Mhm. Just feel, feel me
you're
here.
in your bathroom, you're brushing your teeth, and suddenly the snake's coming out of the sink, and you're back in that moment, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, no, I'm safe now. That's over. that was in the garden. That's what it feels like.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I understand. I totally understand. I never thought I would. I absolutely understand. Oh wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. And okay, so you had this lived experience and you turned it into a fiction?
Yeah. So, I think that sometimes life is, what do they say? Life reflects art,
Mhm.
or it might be the other way around. Art reflects life. I'm not sure, but life's really interesting. Um, Life's also really messy. So, I felt like, how can I take something that's very real and kind of not necessarily clean it up, but make it something someone would want to read without all the little nitty gritty, you know, um, mundane details of the day to day. So yeah, I had this thing I lived through, and yeah, I decided to just kind of make it into a I guess a cautionary tale, if you will.
Oh. Well, I hope people understand where we're coming from with this because now that I completely understand where you're coming from, it's scary. It really truly is. It really truly is. In what ways can survivors reclaim their narrative, their dignity, and their future? I mean, I can't imagine dreaming and all of a sudden, or even standing and not dreaming like real life, and then the freaking rat comes out of the sink. Oh, that I would scream. I would scream. That would be crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so I would say the first thing that I would caution is, if you're in a situation where you feel unsafe or you're in danger, like kind of like your example with, the garden, you screamed and your husband came out to check on you. So I think it's really important to be able to safely identify, hey, I'm in a situation that's a little crazy. Even if I'm not sure what's going on, I don't feel safe. I think that that's the key moment. And then taking that moment and being able to safely reach out to somebody and get that support that you need. Because a lot of people feel like, in situations where, not just domestic abuse or, violence, but lots of scary real life situations, people assume that they're going through it and no one else in the world can possibly imagine what they feel like in that moment because it is so difficult or so scary. But I think that knowing that you're going through something and then being able to reach out
Yeah.
is so powerful, because there is so much support out there that you don't really know until you really reach out. That don't I guess I would say, don't don't be afraid to ask for help, if it's safe to do so, because there are resources out there and there's so many good people out there. For every bad person, I genuinely believe there is 100 good supportive people ready to be there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So let me ask you. Okay. In your book, who are the dark triad style predators, and what unseen damage do they cause in families, in the workplaces, in the communities?
Sure, yeah. So my book is, the novel itself has, a potentially, a dark character and an antagonist, if you will, which is, I won't reveal too much, but it's the novel is, based around a romantic relationship, um, and in this relationship, there's, I'm not gonna say good guy, bad guy. There's two. There's the protagonist and the other person. And so I kind of, the way I wrote the story was really to leave it up to the reader
Mhm.
to kind of close the last page and decide for themselves. What just happened. Who's who was the bad guy?
Mhm.
Was there a bad guy? And that kind of ambiguity and confusion is kind of very common when people leave situations where someone with a dark triad personality is involved. And so what a dark triad personality would mean, kind of from a psychological perspective, is somebody whose personality has three things. Okay. So the first one would be narcissism. So they're high in narcissistic traits. The second one would be psychopathy, which means that they're high on psychopathic traits. And when I say high, I mean it because, all these traits exist on a spectrum, right? Kind of like, it's not like, oh, they're a narcissist or they're not a narcissist. I
Right.
think that's a little reductive. Narcissism is actually normal and healthy to a certain degree in all of us. We all have narcissistic tendencies. That's why, maybe, what motivates you to do the work you do. It's something that builds your self concept. It's why I got up and brushed my teeth this morning. I wanted, I wanted to look good, to feel good. So there's a healthy level of narcissism in people. And so when I say high levels, I'm talking about people whose narcissism and, psychopathic tendencies are pathological. So they're beyond the level where it's healthy. It's become to where they can't help but be that way. And their behavior is impacting other people negatively. So, so when I say high levels, or that's what I mean. So that back to the dark triad. So narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. What's the tongue twister? Machiavellianism, and basically, so narcissism is somebody who is very self-interested, pathologically so. There's a lot more to it clinically that I won't get into. But then psychopathy is typically associated with people who have low to no empathy, which means that they just do not have the capacity to feel for another person in the way that you and I might. And then Machiavellianism is basically somebody who can justify whatever they're doing based on the outcome. What do they say? The means justify the ends. So, for example, somebody who says, well, sure, I may have done this terrible thing, but it accomplished my goal and therefore it's okay. So when you take those three things, the psychopathy, the Machiavellianism, and the narcissism, you get what we call the dark triad. And that's your quintessential dark personality, what I would equate to a predator, or honestly, maybe kind of something a little evil, a little not of this world. That's just my personal take of it.
Wow. That is crazy though. Like you put all those things in, I mean, like you said, everybody has a trait of that, but all of that put into one. Woo. Woo.
Yeah,
And you went
yeah.
through
And so,
this?
well, I, the way I would frame it is, I think that, well, I know that there are people like this out there. There's a lot of research. There's a lot of other survivors. There are people who are out there who exhibit this dark triad personality, right? So the problem is they look like you and me. They act like Joe Schmo next door. It could be anyone. Sometimes the darkest, most dangerous people are the ones who are closest to you, who are nicest, who are the most helpful. And for my experience, it took living through something with, someone I would consider to be a psychopathic, to really see the pattern. And once you kind of see it, once you understand that there are people out there who are not operating from the same place you are. Because for me, a lot of this was kind of lack of exposure. I just hadn't lived it to be able to see it. It has nothing to do with intelligence level, with your education level, with your profession, with it has not. So my point in saying that is it can happen to anyone, and it can happen to anyone because these people are everywhere, and they can be anybody as well. So, kind of to simplify it a little bit, people talk about narcissists wearing masks, right? Like, they're so fake, or they're wearing this mask, and and that's kind of the way I would explain it in real life terms. For example, you meet somebody, and they're very charming. They seem like such a nice person, and they might actually very well be. But the real danger is you don't actually know. Like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes by the time you figure out who's really behind that nice mask.
Yeah, like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, that's that's a great example.
Okay, that guy, I put him up on the screen while you were talking, and I'm telling you, that guy looked so normal to me. He was cute, but crazy.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that say that. They say that he was very charming, very nice, and like supposedly he was pretty attractive.
Yeah, he was. He was. Was in past tense until you got to know him, and then you were dead.
Yeah. That's a great, and that's a great example. That is very helpful, because that also highlights, he got caught.
Oh yeah.
He's well known. That's a household name. Imagine how many of them are out there that never quite push it to where he did. They may not have taken a life, but they could have sucked a soul, stolen innocence, emptied a bank account, whatever it may be. They may stop short of getting caught, but it doesn't mean that we haven't run across them already.
Right.
I mean, I don't quote me on this statistic, but I think the number is like 1 in 10 people you cross paths with are psychopathic. But it doesn't necessarily mean that every single one of them is out to hurt you. It just means that they have the capacity to be that person if that's what they decide they want for you.
Wow. Well, I think all mothers can reach that capacity. Because we are on the edge all the time. It's like, look, boy.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely. I mean,
we're on the edge. I'm not
moms
gonna
are
lie.
something else.
Moms are something else, but we're on the edge. We're like, look, and if you mess with our babies, yeah, that's when you see it. That's when you see
I
it.
mean, I think that's like, moms are something else. I mean, don't get between, a lion cub and his mama, for sure.
Do not. That's that mountain lion right there. That's the one that you can't fight. That's it. Yep.
Exactly.
Well, I just have one more question. Like psychiatry, spirituality, NDEs, all of this is in your book.
So
I have to say NDEs, near death experience. I'm sorry, NDEs, near death experience.
So near death experience. So I would say that the book has a spiritual aspect to it. It's not really a religious book, but there's definitely moments where I guess you would question how much of this is psychology and how much of this is something kind of otherworldly, something not of this world. And that kind of led me to my own kind of spiritual experiences, and it kind of really opened up. I'll kind of say that suffering and pain are not great things,
Yeah.
but they're very human. I think that to suffer is inherently part of life, unfortunately.
Yes.
And I think that obviously meaningless suffering exists, and that's not good. But if if suffering can soften you up a little bit in terms of, you know, not that it's something I would want for anyone, but for me personally, it it opened my heart up a little bit to where I could then change that suffering into something that meant something for me. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're able to take something negative and terrible, but that's very human, like suffering and pain, and kind of be an alchemist and um, translate it into creativity or something meaningful, whatever that looks like for people. For me, it's my writing. For you, maybe it's your garden. Um, I think something beautiful can come from something that's painful.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. Even the realization that that person really meant more to you than what you thought.
Yeah, definitely. Exactly. And yeah, I know this is all very like heavy stuff, but
But it's good. It's life. Life is
yeah,
heavy.
life is
Life is
heavy,
heavy. Life is
but
heavy.
especially lately, let me tell you.
Hello.
These days something just feels off, and that kind of like maybe touches on the spiritual aspect. I think I'm personally very in touch with my feelings. I'm a very sensitive person. And not in a bad way. I mean that I think it's good for people to be open to their intuition,
Hmm.
to express their emotions, to pick up on other people's energies. I'm a sympathetic crier. Like if somebody starts crying, I will start crying.
No, don't do that.
Yeah,
That's
I will.
me.
I usually won't cry first, but I'm like I will.
I will
I'm
cry. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I'm also strangely kind of like a paramedic story from when I was a paramedic for about 9 years. I'm also a sympathetic like vomiter. Like if a patient would throw up, I would have to like stick my head out the window and get some
Oh
fresh
no.
air because I would throw up too.
I don't know.
And so
Yeah,
my
it
my
kind of grosses
partners
me
would
out.
make fun of me. They would make fun of me. They'd be like, "Come on now, like."
Oh man, I can definitely empathize with you on that one because I mean it does smell. I might
It
throw up
definitely
just
does.
because of the smell. I mean, maybe I'm not empathetic, but I'm definitely going to be affected.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway,
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. Your book it could save people and also explain to people what it really truly is like to actually have to go through something like what you've gone through and then to put it in a book like this. This is amazing. PTSD is not fun. It definitely
yeah.
isn't. And I'm
Yeah,
glad
well,
you did
thanks for
this.
having me. I hope the book is, it doesn't have to be as intense as, you know, the lived experience. I wrote it in a way that you can kind of make what you want of it as a reader at the end. It could be something spiritual. It could be a toxic relationship. It could be something more intense. And so I wrote it in a way that really kind of takes you along for the ride. And I really hope that, if one person out there reads it and it means something to them, even if it's just a good story, then that makes the effort, for me meaningful.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, the website is mypsychox.net. Again, that's mypsychox.net. Psycho spelled Psycho and EX. So mypsycho and then EX.net. I'll put that in the link below and also put that in the description box so it'll be easy for you guys to find it. You know, I absolutely love the fact that you've written this book, that you've come out of your shell to actually write it, even if it's not, completely you. It is fictional, but the actual storyline and what you've gone through is you. I thank you so much for doing this. This is amazing that you did this. Was it healing for you?
Honestly, yes. Um, I would say that whatever it is that makes you express yourself, whether, for me, it's my writing. It was some parts of it were difficult to kind of go back through, but
Mhm.
it helped me process a lot of, the trauma and a lot of my feelings about it. And so really it was very healing and brought me to closure. But for some people, that's music, that's dance,
Yeah.
that's, making sculptures, being in nature, whatever it is, I'm confident in the human spirit and, how resilient people are. And so I would encourage anybody who's out there who's struggling with something, whatever that is, like grab a pen and paper, like grab your camera, grab your microphone like Yaya and, just do something, try to do something positive with it, even though it really hurts.
Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree. It can be healing. It can bring you up and out, and it can also help you to realize that you're not alone. You're not alone, and you're not going through this alone. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it, Ryan.
Thank you. Have a happy new year. Okay.
And you too. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, we're going to have that link in the description box. So it's mypsychox.net. We're going to have that link in the description box. Go ahead and check it out for yourself. And if you're into thrillers that come from real life situations, like My Rat and My Snake, then you need to go ahead and check this book out yourself. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hate the analysis, really, but that's the only thing I can think of that comes close to what you are saying. But wow, that is scary. Definitely scary. But thank you so much, Ryan. And thank you guys again so much for tuning in. Don't forget to dare to be different. And until next time, guys, bye. Thank you for watching.